Hello, and welcome to Founder Freedom, From Hustler to CEO, the podcast built for e-commerce entrepreneurs who are ready to work less, earn more, and scale smarter. Here we explore the stories of visionary entrepreneurs, inventors, and changemakers who are reshaping industries with innovation and passion. Today, we're thrilled to welcome Heidi Gates, the founder of Blue Platypus Clothing, a vibrant, size-inclusive, made in the USA apparel brand that's been redefining fashion for over 20 years. From eye-catching designs to sustainable production, Heidi's mission is clear: to clothe people in happy, colorful, and well-made places that stand the test of time. In this episode, we're going to dive into the story behind Blue Platypus Clothing and its commitment to ethical US-based production, the challenges of running an independent fashion brand in today's fast-paced, throwaway fashion culture, and the trends in sustainable fashion, plus size and inclusivity in the evolving retail landscape. How Heidi balances creativity, business, and even a storage empire on the side. If you love unique fashion, quality craftsmanship, and the story of a brand that stays true to its values, this conversation is for you. Let's dive into the world of slow fashion, sustainability, and style with Heidi Gates. Welcome to the podcast today. So, can you give me your company's elevator pitch so that everybody can get familiar with your company?
Absolutely. I'm Heidi from Blue Platypus Clothing. We are a size-inclusive clothing brand for everyone who wants to wear colorful clothing with unique prints. Our aim is to bring more color and joy into the world and make people feel confident and sassy.
Nice. So what inspired you to create Blue Platypus?
One of the main things that inspired us was vintage clothing, like bold colors, psychedelic posters, things like that. I was probably most inspired by the 60s and 70s as my era. There was a lot of these clothing out there, like rockabilly type stuff. And then there was a lot of like rock and roll stuff that was kind of dirty when we started. Mm-hmm. So I really wanted to go a different direction and do more like color and more like our mushroom prints always do really well for us, stuff like that. I just felt like so many companies were creating similar items that either lacked color or were completely different. And I just thought we can really bring like some bold graphics to the marketplace and kind of, revolutionize that a little bit, because we started with t-shirts only. So that's kind of the beginning.
Nice. I love a good mushroom in
Everybody
print
does.
Or in the garden.
Oh yeah, exactly.
What major challenge or gap did you see in the market that kind of led to, making your business become a business?
Well, when we started, there were a lot of indie t-shirt lines in Los Angeles, but a lot were like edgy rock and roll. It was kind of like the era of like Ed Hardy and that kind of stuff. Like a lot of it was like really just edgy. And I guess we just wanted to make something that was more colorful, more fun. And we wanted to make some textural things. So we actually, when we started, we went to the screen printing show in Long Beach, the ISS show. We learned about flocking, which is making things fuzzy, which that was really popular for a long time. It is very, very expensive to do, especially domestically, which I think is why more people don't do it. But it's such a neat process. And we learned all about that. We were using foil and high density inks. We went to all the shows, learned all the techniques. And then we did kind of, have a few fails along the way. Like we learned that lasers cannot burn out cotton. It has to be like a blend so that it burns out the cotton and leaves the other fibers, which we only used 100% cotton. So that was a bit of an interesting lesson. And then we also learned that certain things like glitter and sometimes caviar, which is these little beads, they kind of tend to fall off if they're not glued on really, really well. So, we've learned along the way a lot about dyes, a lot about inks, a lot about things like that. In the beginning, we were just trying to kind of explore any like different feel or, look that we could, in the especially in the screen printing realm, because we were doing t-shirts then.
Sure. That's pretty interesting. I didn't know all that kind of activity goes into doing a print.
There are a lot of different things.
I'm familiar with the iron-on stuff, right? That's about my knowledge level.
Yeah, and see, we never did that. We always did the foil where you put the glue down and then you actually like screen print. Then you put it on. Like there's kind of some different ways to do it, but like the heat transfer stuff always like it kind of cracks and it has issues. So we always wanted to do it so that you could wash it like 100 times and it would still be, like in great shape, like when it started.
That's what helps your products last forever.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty cool. So what did you discover that was broken or inefficient about the processes as you were learning your way through?
One of the main things that a lot of people don't know is most of the indie people back in the day were using factory blanks like American Apparel. Everybody used American Apparel. I mean, at one point, that was like in the early thousands. It was decent quality, and they did offer like a good amount of products. But then we started noticing that they were tiny. They were junior size. Like at the time, when I was a little smaller than I am now, I was a medium, and we were selling like mediums to extra larges to our wholesale customers. So we were like, this isn't really working. Like these aren't big enough. They don't really fit people. Our demographic wasn't like 12-year-olds. So we started doing custom cut and sew. That was kind of our first big, like, I think, good idea that we had to do something that was different. So it was more contemporary size. So our boutiques that we're trying to sell to said, oh, this will actually fit our customers, who again weren't like tiny teenagers, but they were like, 20s, 30s, 40s and up. Actually, our size demographics actually expanded even more because we expanded into plus size a few years later, just because we really realized we still weren't serving all of our customers as well as we could. So we went up to 4X at that point. Another thing was ink. We started using discharge, which it kind of bleaches the color out of the fabric and then can put another color kind of over it in the same spot. And you don't even feel it once it's washed. So it created such a nice hand that we started using that, because the industry standard is plastisol, which, you can feel. And if you've ever gotten a really kind of weird concert t-shirt, the cardboardy ones with the thick plastic on it, that's exactly the opposite of what we wanted to do. We wanted to create really, like soft things. We used really like fine cottons, and like that when they dyed, they were so soft. And we just really wanted that high-end feel for like, a boutique client.
Yeah, like a forever shirt.
Exactly.
Like I used to wear shirts forever. I still kind of do, but yeah,
they're
hard to find. They're hard to find good ones.
I wear like 5% of the stuff we make 100% of the time. It's really kind of weird how it breaks down sometimes,
Yeah, that's cool. So how does your company's product solve this problem better than existing alternatives in the market?
I would say, unlike most of our competitors, we started doing custom cut and sew. As I mentioned, we did custom garment dyeing, custom printing. We were also creating new styles like bodies, like our popular tulip sleeve tee, which we're still selling. And we've done probably 3 or 4 iterations of. We did one with a band at the bottom, and then we did like a longer one, and now we've done a cropped one. And it has a cute little petal sleeve that girls have really loved. We also expanded out of tees into dresses, skirts, tunics, and then eventually we got into wovens like jumpsuits like this and collared mini dresses, which are some of our most popular items now. We also branched out from just screen printing, with like a maybe 11 by 17 screen, to a roll printing where it's like an all over print where you actually have to engrave the screens, and you print huge rolls of fabric that are maybe like 6 or 7 feet wide using these engraved rollers. And then we print it, and then we cut and sew those rather than just, using old school screen printing. So that
totally custom.
We've had kind of a big evolution just as far as, like how far we've come with starting with a t-shirt with maybe 2 color screen print. We did a Chinese zodiac line for our very first line. And strangely enough, one of them ended up on Arrested Development. This Asian boy that was on the show called Anyang for a couple episodes, and it was really random. I have no idea how it got there, but we started with such a basic, American Apparel garment. And then we decided we're going to sew it ourselves. We're going to make our own bodies. We're going to dye it with our own colors. And we just really kind of expanded from there. And especially the plus size, I think was maybe our best move, because we have so many plus size customers who have not been able to find quality things elsewhere that were fashionable, that fit properly. Because even like a lot of the stuff that's made abroad, like the plus size, if you look at the measurements, like once people get it, like it's not plus size. It says plus size, and it's still tiny, and people can't wear that. So
no, that's the whole problem with imported clothing. It's not made for Americans.
Yeah,
we have a commercial food diet going on over here.
We've got a lot of stuff going on over here, but that's a whole other conversation.
That's awesome. So what's the biggest misconception that people have about what you do? So like maybe could you share like a happy customer story or a bigger picture solution that you would like to talk about?
Yeah, I've got a couple things. Okay, so first of all, people have no idea how hard it is to make a piece of clothing. I've even seen t-shirts where the rib didn't match the body, even though they were both white, because one was optic white and one was PFD white, which prepared for dye, which, I mean, the fact that the sewer wouldn't get the rib and wouldn't notice that the rib doesn't match the body, because if you're dyeing it black, it dyes the same. If you're dyeing it a light color, like a light pink, it doesn't dye the same. I mean, that's the first thing I would say. It's so hard to get anything actually produced the way that you've designed it. So that's our biggest challenge, I would say. And people kind of don't always understand that if they haven't done it. Just so many things can go wrong along the way. I've designed all of our own patterns, silhouettes, the artwork for the tees, the all over prints, like our best-selling landscape print,
Mm-hmm.
which is probably our number one. This emerged from a really dark time during COVID when I just kept sitting in my office, trying not to freak out. And I just kept adding elements. And I feel like the further I go, the kind of more people respond to it, like the wilder it gets. Cause I was kind of afraid for years. I kind of pulled back because in the marketplace in general, things aren't really that wild. And I thought, oh, I don't know,
Right.
I can sell a print that has this many colors or has weird animals all over it? And the answer is yes. Sourcing is also very challenging in the United States. Some people don't believe we make everything in California because there's so many people like on Instagram, like they'll see our Instagram ad or a post and they'll think we're one of those companies that imports things and then changes the labels because a lot of companies are doing that and it's very shady. We have all our small production people in California who are definitely, super hardworking immigrants. They're amazing. They've done, everything all these years for us. And I just, I'm so thankful to them just for everything that they've done. I pretty much owe everything to them. And
That's
then
awesome.
some people think we're a children's line because of our quirky name and our colors. They think that it's children's, which it has always been a women's line. Women's and unisex, like we're not limiting it to anyone because we definitely do have some, like non-binary customers, et cetera. So it's not only women, but it's definitely for adult people. It's not a children's line at all. We did venture a little bit into children's, but the children's market, it's so hard to make money off of it just because it's so saturated and they have so many cute things in kids too.
Yeah.
That it's hard to compete. So
yeah. And probably cost is a little bit more of a
because it costs less much to sew because you're sewing a tiny garment. It's actually sometimes harder to sew. You're using less fabric, but also, there aren't a lot of people domestically who sew children's wear, so even finding production people is tougher. So kind of the whole thing is a lot harder than people think because people are like, why don't you do some baby stuff and some kid stuff? And we've tried, but we've kind of learned that you can't and plus kids grow so fast, you can't sell it as, hey, they'll wear this for 10 years because they won't, because in 10 years they're going to be huge, they'll be.
You have to hand it down.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. That's a great explanation. I mean, just from what you're saying, I mean, I had no idea that all this custom processes go into even making clothing. I mean, my example is like I look at Jockey, right? Because I'm a Jockey aficionado.
Right.
Their stuff is just gone from excellent to meh, just okay. That helps me understand that a little bit.
Well, that's because a lot of people are more concerned about the margins than they are about, the actual quality. So a lot of people cut corners along the way because there's always different choices you can make with elastics, with zippers, even like little things, little trims. Like maybe you notice the tags got cheaper over the years, and so there's always a million decisions to be made. And it's always opportunity cost, is it worth it to go with this cheaper thing, knowing that it's not going to last? Like we use absolutely top quality zippers on everything just because, and we use colorful zippers that match, which is also harder to find.
Sure.
But at the same time, at the end of the day, do I want to make what everybody else is making cheaply overseas? No, that's not the point of this at all. So I just feel like I cannot sacrifice that. I would rather do something else than have to sacrifice like what my vision really is and something that I can really feel good about. And, just paying people fair wages. Like I'm not going to take it overseas because I love my production people and they're making a fair wage and they're, in most cases, like determining their prices. And then I work around that as well as I can. I sacrifice a little bit on margin, but at the end of the day, I know that people are well paid and they're, it feels like the right thing to do.
That's fantastic. It's so unlike most companies.
Well, yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, this isn't my only like source of income. So I feel like I'm allowed a little more liberty on that, than most people. So I'm very, very lucky because I do know some small brands who, really struggle with margins like I do, but they're having a harder time.
Yeah.
And right now kind of customer confidence is a little bit shaken. So it's really, especially with, Amazon and some of the competition, it's very hard to compete in a marketplace where it's hard to advertise effectively, et cetera.
Right. It is crowded. For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So in terms of going forward, like what trends are shaping the future of your industry from your point of view?
I would say among like the slow fashion community, because obviously like trends with, couture and everything else are completely different. Trends with fast fashion are like every 5 seconds and it's completely changing all the time. But I would say with brands like ours, and I mean, there's probably, a dozen or so of us out there who are kind of in the same niche, I would say. I feel like people are looking for a quality. They're looking for a lifestyle brand. They're looking for something that they can wear over and over. They can express themselves while, feeling comfortable. Stuff that they can kind of, I like to think that we're like future vintage. Like the stuff's going to be around a long time, that you can incorporate it in different seasons with like a different sweater, a different jacket. You can put a different belt on with it. You can accessorize it differently and kind of make it into a new outfit. I think that's really key. And, you can throw in vintage pieces with it. You can throw in some pieces from some other indie brands with it, and you can kind of mix and match it. I really think that's, our customers don't tend to just like wear something like the same way all the time. They kind of know how to mix it up. And I think that's really kind of a trend, is people like some of our boutiques even show it. They put on a mannequin like layered with all these really interesting pieces just to kind of show people, this is what you can do with this. You don't just have to like put it on and that's it. You can layer it with this. You can wear it in colder weather by putting something under it. You can wear it in warmer weather by taking that off. It's just, I think you really need to just focus on sustainability, longevity, and uniqueness right now. I think are kind of the three keys of things like this, with slow fashion, I think. And also, if you can do domestic production or fair trade, I think that's really key too, because otherwise, yeah, it's designed in New York or it's designed in wherever, but who's actually making these things? Can you walk into your production place and see the people who are making it on an unannounced visit? Like I can roll by and say, hey, I can go to my dye house, and I walk in and there's no surprises there. I have had factories where I've walked in, I've been like, oh no, this isn't happening. This is filthy, and these people look miserable. And I've, walked out of there and said, we can't do business with these people. But can you do that when people are overseas? Not really. And that's why factories are burning down in Bangladesh. I mean, everybody heard about that one factory collapse years ago that killed all the people. I mean, it's not worth that. It's just fashion. People shouldn't be dying because they're sewing clothing.
Right.
It should be fun. It should be, I don't know,
trying to make a living.
Yeah, it should be ethical, at the end of the day.
For sure. Yeah. That's a great answer. So with all that, in thinking about your fellow business owners, what advice would you have for other owners looking to stay ahead of the future, looking to stay ahead of the curve?
I'd say finding consistent, high quality production is key, first of all, without really good production. And also being sure that you can create a sample that is matched in production, because you can sell samples all day long that are absolutely beautiful. But if you cannot make those samples into production where people can actually sell them, then, that creates a huge problem. And I've had, situations where I have to go to my like button people or my zipper people or, whoever they are, or fabric people, and say, hey, I know I can get this as a sample, but am I going to be able to get 1,000 yards of this? Am I going to be able to get 500 of these buttons, these trims? Am I going to be able in 6 months, will you still have this product so that I can, produce it? And they're the people creating one-off things that are absolutely rad. And that's a whole different deal, because then you do make just one piece, and that's its unique piece, especially people making things out of quilts and things like that. And that's really awesome, like the repurposing. But if you are doing an actual like normal kind of clothing line and you want to, make 100 pieces, 200 pieces, 1,000 pieces, you really need to make sure that what you show people on the front end matches what they are getting on the back end. Because I feel like there's a lot of people who create a beautiful sample, and maybe the sample's created here and maybe they send it overseas and the tech pack has wrong specs or something. And then you get back something completely different. Like we've all seen those videos of the fails where people open up their package of what they ordered online, with the beautiful photo or whatever. And they're like, oh, and they try it on and it's like, this big, and it's just completely ridiculous. And that's something to just totally avoid. It's so, avoidable, I think.
Yeah, we've all been there. But thank God, at least today, when we order online, we can return stuff. So because it does make it hard. I mean,
about, but
you touched on the value of the boutique stores, and I mean, that's where it's at in clothing and a lot of items in our.
Well, yeah, because I feel like back in the day, there were a few more big sites. Like we worked with ModCloth, and we were lucky enough to get in with them like from the very, very beginning. They were one of our main success stories because they actually were asking us for plus size even before we were ready to do it. And we were like, it's kind of more expensive. Can we get a margin? We don't know if we want to do it. We don't know if there's enough customers for it. And once we started doing it with them, I mean, it went great. Like we had a few golden years with them where we had a couple t-shirt styles that we were selling in all 9 sizes to them. They were blown out of them, and they were like evergreens where they would just order them and order them and order them and order them and order them over and over. The same things. It was so easy to get it produced. It was like the same styles. It was the same. we had the same production people, and it was magical. But I feel like, a lot of those companies grow so big or they get bought by people, and then, they want to cut your margin to literally nothing. I mean, we eventually stopped working with them just because we couldn't get any kind of a margin. And then a lot of companies like that too, maybe they start out with like indie brands in their marketplace, but then they end up just making their own styles because it's cheaper, than paying like for domestic production, et cetera. So they're so concerned about margins that a lot of those companies like start off kind of in the right direction and then they like convert. And I've even had some boutiques who did that, who liked our line for a while. And then after a while, I noticed that the stuff just got like more and more generic. And I think they were just trying to find stuff that they could do a 3 or 4 times, markup on, rather than doing like the Keystone markup, like the, like doubling the wholesale to get retail.
Right.
So I don't know. It's just, it's interesting to see the ones like, we have a few really awesome boutiques like Modern Millie in Salem, Massachusetts, and Donna's Dress Shop, and people like that who've been with us all these years. And Sedeka, which God love them, they're in Altadena, and everything around them burned down just now. So I don't know if they're going to be able to rebuild, but we've had some really consistent customers like that over the years who've been amazing, who they know how to merchandise when people, and I think in-person stuff is really important too, because we have found that where we have a retail store, then a lot of times we'll get internet customers from those areas because they've tried it on, they know the quality, they know the fit. So while I don't have a brick and mortar myself, just because I've got a million things going on, it's been so nice to have these boutiques where these boutique owners love us and they really push us and they say, hey, these are the perks of this product. It's so awesome. And then once people try it, especially the plus size customers, because they're nervous. They don't know if it's going to fit. They don't know if it's going to make them look weird, just because a lot of plus size clothing, even if it fits people, it's dumpy or it's shapeless or it looks strange,
Right.
And that's why we have a model who we worked with who's a 2X, who's amazing. Her name's Amber, and she's just done such a good job of like she's our fit model, and she tells us like, you know what, a girl my size is not going to want this sleeve on here because it's going to, it's going to cut here and it's going to look weird, which is something that I might not realize as the designer because, everybody's body is different.
Right.
So yeah, we've been lucky enough to partner with some really awesome people who give us some great feedback like that,
That's fantastic.
well. So,
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So what's next for your company? Looking forward.
Well, who knows? I mean, you're only as good as your last collection. So, I mean, no, I'm kidding. I would say we are just going to continue in a somewhat cautious vein at the moment to, keep producing high quality things. We're not going to change our mission really at all. We are going to keep paying attention to like customer feedback. We're going to pay attention to one of the great things is we have one of those things on our website that tells us like if something sells out, then you can sign up for like, notify me on restock. That's been really crucial as far as like, what do we actually want to reproduce again if there is anything? Because a lot of times we don't, it's one time and that's it.
Right.
But I feel like I'm going to really be paying close attention in the next several months to exactly what the customers are buying, exactly what they want, try to proceed from there. We're going to do a big photo shoot in July, like we always do for our spring collection. We generally launch a big spring collection, then sometimes do a little fill in the fall because because of domestic production, we can't do like overcoats and things like that just because it's too expensive. So our line is primarily for like kind of warmer weather. It's lightweight cotton. It's all from natural fibers and things like that. So
nice.
I would say we're just going to kind of continue doing what we're doing, try to sell things online, keep working with some of our awesome people who we have people who we use as models where we trade clothes with them or, we kind of collaborate with them. And that's been a lot of fun lately. I've found a lot of new people lately, just, through some awesome connections that have really worked out well and who love our stuff that I never knew were out there. And there's a line in Southern California called Heart of Hope, and we actually just shipped them some stuff because they do have a storefront for now. So I think they're gonna put some of our stuff there, see if people can try it on in person and kind of see what it's about. And I don't know, we're just trying to kind of figure out how to make it work. You have to constantly pivot. You have to constantly be thinking, okay, let's think outside the box. Like we did Dapper Day last year, which was pretty good, and then we're not doing it this year just for some logistical reasons of like how crazy everything's been. But, I would do that again. That was really fun. We met a lot of like the Disney people who were like really into like that whole scene and they really liked our quirkiness, because it's kind of in the same veins. I don't know. I would say the best way to kind of keep up with us is to get on our email list. Instagram has a lot of like backstory information and it has links to Fair, which is our wholesale site that we sell through. We don't do trade shows anymore, but we do sell through Fair, which is kind of nice. And we do US and Canada. And then once in a while we do like Australia or something too, but just with shipping everything these days, it's tricky. So we don't do too much international, just because of that. But yeah, so I
Cool.
guess.
That's awesome. So you talked about how people can get in touch with you. Did you have a special offer for our listeners at all today or no?
Yeah, let's see. What are we thinking today? Are we thinking we want to do? Well, okay, we always have free shipping over $75. So that's kind of a consistent thing that we offer, just BTW.
Mm-hmm.
And then we could probably do a special little coupon if anyone is interested. Yeah, let's do a 20% off coupon with code AdServePros. You
There
want to
you
do that?
go.
Is
That's
that fair?
easy
Just
for
all one
me.
word? Okay, 20% off AdServePros. And we'll run that through, let's say, May 31st. Does that sound
Okay.
good?
Sounds
Okay.
great.
All right.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Well, there you go, folks. A great interview with Heidi about
Yeah.
Blue Platypus Clothing. Thank you,
Because,
Heidi.
yeah, absolutely.